Chapter 1 of Pathfinders of the Great Plains. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Pathfinders of the Great Plains by Lawrence J. Burpee. Chapter 1. Early Service. Canada has had many brave sons, but none braver than Pierre Gaultier de la Verendryes, who gave all that he had, including his life, for the glory and welfare of his country. La Verendrye was born in the quaint little town of Three Rivers on the St Lawrence on November 17, 1685. His father was governor of the district of which Three Rivers was the capital. His mother was a daughter of Pierre Boucher, a former governor of the same district. In those days, when Canada was still a French colony, both Three Rivers and Montreal had their own governors, while the whole colony was under the authority of the Governor-General, who lived at Quebec. At that time, Three Rivers was a more important place than it is today. Next to Quebec and Montreal, it was the largest town in Canada. If we could see it as it was in the days of La Vérendrye, we should find it very different from the towns we know. It was surrounded by a strong wall and protected with cannon. The town had always a garrison of regular soldiers, and this garrison was supported in times of necessity by every man and boy in Three Rivers. Those who lived in the neighbourhood were also liable to be called upon for the service of defence. In those days, when the dreaded Iroquois might at any moment swoop down upon the little settlement, every man kept his gun within reach, and every man knew how to use it. When the alarm was given, men, women, and children swarmed into Three Rivers, and the town became a secure fortress, for the Indians, ready enough to ambush small parties of white men in the forest or in the field, rarely dared to attack walled towns. In this little walled town Pierre Gaultier de la Verendrye was born, and spent his boyhood. He was one of 10 children, so that he must have had no lack of companions. We have no exact description of the home of the governor of Three Rivers, but it was probably much like that of other seigneurs or landed gentry of New France, a low, rambling stone building, with walls solid enough to resist a siege, perhaps a wing or two, many gables, and a lofty roof. It would be flanked, too, with many outhouses. It must not be supposed, however, that the governor of Three Rivers and his family lived in luxury. People then were obliged to live more simply than they live to-day. The governor had a salary of 1,200 francs a year, or about $240 of the money of the present day. At that time, it is true, food and clothing were cheaper than they are now, so that this sum would buy a great deal more than it would at the present time. And the governor had other slight resources, for he was able to add to his official income the profits of a small farm and of a trading post on the St Maurice River. Still, it was a small income on which to support a family of 10 lusty children, and at the same time keep up the dignity of the position as governor of an important town. Pierre, therefore, like most of the other boys of New France, had to shift for himself at an age when the boys of to-day are still at school. In those days there was practically only one career for a gentleman's son, that of a soldier. Accordingly, we find Pierre entering the army as a cadet at the age of 12. Nothing is known of his military service up to the year 1704. In that year, however, he took part in an expedition against Deerfield, on the north-western frontier of the colony of Massachusetts. The expedition was commanded by a well-known guerrilla leader, Hertel de Rouville, and consisted of about 50 Canadians and 200 Abnakis and Caughnawagas. These adventurers and redskins were accustomed to all kinds of hardships. In the depths of winter they set out from Montreal to make a journey of nearly 300 miles. They travelled on snowshoes through the forest, carrying supplies and provisions on their backs. At the end of a long day's tramp, some comparatively sheltered spot would be found for the camp. The snow would be cleared away with their snowshoes, and a big campfire built in the midst of the clearing. Round this the weary men, white and red, would gather to eat their simple meal and smoke a pipe. Then each man would wrap himself in his cloak or blanket and fall asleep, with his feet towards the fire.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?